Hey there everyone, my name is AJ Pickett and I make videos about role-playing games and lots of them. I upload twice a week with a live stream every weekend. You can also find me on Subscribestar, Patreon, and Discord, Facebook and Twitter. Also, there is an option to join the channel as a member and I welcome any questions you have in the comments section below. If you like this video or this channel, hit that like button if you would be so kind, and please subscribe. I upload frequently. A quick look at an old favourite, and I'm sure this is going to cement a bit of an association between my channel and giant gastropods, but hey, they're always good for a laugh, and this particular variety is basically engineered to be a real pain in the ass to adventuring humanoids. The Metalmaster appears to be a variety of giant slug, most commonly growing to around 15 feet long, with a midsection about 2 feet thick. I first read about them in the book Lost Empires of Faerun, an excellent read published in February 2005, but they've been around much longer than that, showing up in Dragon Magazine issue 139 in one of Ed Greenwood's The Dragon's Bestiary articles. The article lists monsters much as you would find them in a monster manual, and I kind of miss Mr. Greenwood's more story-based style with all the fact-filled footnotes at the end of the articles. The Metalmaster also appears in the AD&D 2nd edition's Monstrous Compendium Annual, volume number 1. So I'll be drawing on all of those resources and some online adaptations in my exploration for you today. So, the Metalmaster, also known as the Sword Slug, is a large slug-like creature that eats only the larger red-blooded prey, such as livestock and humans. The adult size actually ranges from a large 12 feet to a huge 26 feet long. The size depends more on food sources than it does on the actual age of the creatures. The famed bard, Mintipur Moonsilver, whose collected works is held in a chapbook bearing his name in the city of Silvermoon, has a few lines in which he tells of the sword slug, though he talks of it as though the metal has a love for the slug and not the other way around. But his report of the appearance of the creatures is quite accurate, so either he really did encounter one or he spoke about it with someone else who had encountered one. A Metalmaster's power works on metal, for sure, including non-ferrous metal, and whether such metal is magical or not doesn't seem to matter either. It's been reported that it can even influence raw ores inside rocks if there's sufficient concentrations of it. This power seems to be magnetic in nature, but the Metalmaster has a very fine-tuned and powerful control over it, and what must really be an enormous magnetic field that it can generate in a manner similar to the huge charge an electric eel can release on contact. Some have speculated, and I tend to agree, that it's not only generating a powerful magnetic field of its own, but can manipulate other magnetic fields around it as well. So Dungeon Masters, be aware, the range and scope of its magnetic powers are wide open for you to tinker with if there exists some reason for random magnetic fields in the encounter area, or there's more than one Metalmaster slug. Now, while this has a lot more detail to it in earlier editions of the game, going over exactly how much weight and at what ranges this power works, more modern versions do the logical thing and state that the Metalmaster can detect a pound of metal within 60 feet and know its general direction. The magical beast can then magnetically attract or repel that metal, making weapons feel like they're entangled or deflecting them from hitting it. Metal shields and armor that can't be dropped quickly will pull or push their owners along with a strong and constant force. Metal Masters within 5 feet of any metal source will know exactly what that metal is, how much there is, and where it's located. Metal objects being drawn towards the Metal Master move at 60 feet per round if they are less than, say, a human body weight, and 30 feet per round if the objects are larger. We'll talk about this in more detail later in the video. There is some small protection for magic items, so magically held or secure objects are never affected by a Metal Master, and a wall of force or similar energy effect can prevent metal objects from being snatched away. A Metal Master's power can't be avoided by using blink, jump or similar spells because the power extends into the ethereal plane. Teleport, dimension door and the like, however, work as a means of escape, so there's that strategy. As the DM, it's your call, but I suggest arrows and things with metal tips will most likely be completely deflected if fired from more than a couple of dozen feet away. In 5th edition, this would easily represent disadvantage on ranged attack rolls that are further away than adjacent. Metalmasters are not really slimy, as you would expect for what is essentially an amorphous creature. They're leathery skinned and slug-like or worm-like, but they are not technically gastropods like garden snails, though they do have a maw filled with saw-like teeth that can inflict 2d6 plus 6 piercing damage for a large variety, and 2d10 plus 10 damage for the huge individuals. It's usually plus 7 to hit, and its jaws are strong enough to bite through metal. Metalmasters don't eat metal, though they often wolf down bits of it when devouring their prey, and they are sometimes struck by arrowheads and things, so they can have metal inside their body and still safely use their power to move metal around. They're not exactly like a living magnet in a way that is detrimental to them. Plus, magnets can't just reverse polarity at will and switch to repelling metal suddenly. The repulsion and attraction strength, if an adventurer is trying to get against it, has an athletics DC of 15 regardless of how large the Metalmaster is. So it's like a magnetic field, but not. The hide of the creatures appears to be dull purple to a rust red hue, though rare specimens are smoky grey or black. They prefer big prey but can survive on eating smaller mammals and vermin, as well as consume any found carrion in their environment. They're typically solitary hunters and ambush predators, though they will band together as a hunting pack in areas with particularly large and fierce prey, and they also gather during mating season during the warm months. They will retreat into deep tunnels, muddy bogs, and really inhospitable remote swamps where they're less likely to be disturbed while during their breeding season. They are not often prey for other predators because they taste quite revolting, incredibly bitter, and it breaks down really rapidly into a noxious ichor that oozes from chunks of rubbery flesh. About the only creatures that can stomach it are oozes and carrion crawlers, which are also their competition in the area for carrion. And while alchemists and wizards have tried many times, none of them has found any use for the body parts of these monsters. On one very interesting thing that makes them differ greatly from other slug-like creatures is that they seem to be quite intelligent, and they are able to live for a long time. Thanks to the remote and squalid ponds in which they spend their young lives, no small or young sword slugs have ever been reported. Some of them, if tales of their inhabiting particular lairs are at all accurate, may live for well over a century. Also, they have a very disturbing ability to imitate sounds, and some believe they may be capable of speech. I'm not so sure. While they do have a very high intelligence for a slug, none have ever been tamed or trained. Captured and used as guard monsters, yes, but they just see intelligent humanoids, any humanoids, as food. They can imitate sounds, such as noises of a wounded human making screaming or pleading sounds, or the noises made by a spellcaster. They can make creaks and rattles that you would hear in dungeons, and they can imitate the sounds of other creatures, and I suppose, in theory, they could be kept captive, for example, a powerful black dragon, who starves the little song slugs and only feeds them victims if they sing for it, plus the added bonus of what the slugs do when they make their lairs in dragon hordes. So when the dragon's away, it could just release the slug from its cage and recapture it again once they return to its lair. This will become clearly obvious as a tactic when I tell you what these things can do. You see, precious metal coins are absolutely lethal when combined with the sword slug's power. There is a listing in the homebrew section of the D&D Beyond website by First Level Blue Monkey, which is a good start, but a bit rough, and some parts don't match up well with the challenge rating 5 listed of the creature. But there are some good adaptations here, so most of the powers of the Metalmaster work exactly like the telekinesis spell, with a save DC of 15, which is about 3 points higher than usual for a spell-like ability with a CR5 creature, but this is the main feature of the monster that it relies on heavily, so it's fine. The range of the effect is 60 feet, and the Metalmaster can target one object or creature per action per round. This opens the door to creating a legendary version of the Sword Slug with legendary actions that it can take during other creatures' turns during the round. The Sword Slug can move a huge or smaller creature by making a contested check. The creature gets to pit their strength against the DC 15 magnetic power of the slug. If the slug wins the contest, it will move the creature 30 feet either towards itself or away from itself. However, if there's other magnetic fields present in the area, it can move a creature anywhere it wants to, including straight up in the air, over the lip of a chasm, a pit full of spikes, a pool of acid, a tomb full of asps, a giant cheese grater, an extremely unsafe giant fan ventilation device, or a pond full of its ravenous flesh-eating offspring, for example. The Metalmaster can keep a creature suspended helplessly in the air for as long as it wants, as long as it continues to spend an action to do so, and it maintains that magnetic grip on the creature by repeating the contested strength check. Presumably the person will be struggling to get out of it as much as it can. Can Metalmasters lift other Metalmasters? Yes, they can, and considering that without using their magnetic powers the slugs are actually not very good climbers at all, they may band together in groups to make travel easier in the Underdark and the inhospitable surface world. Metalmasters cannot lift themselves with their magnetic powers though. Lifting objects is limited to around 1,000 pounds, again with a speed of around 30 feet per round, and only within 60 feet. However, they can lift and drop a round boulder and cause it to roll on its own accord beyond that range, as long as that boulder contains a high concentration of metal ore. The Metalmaster's control is so fine it can easily manipulate any metal object, such as opening doors, releasing manacles and locks, and they can do amazing things with liquid metals, which is a substance that they would consider to be a treasure. I'd let your imagination just spin in place at what they could do with liquid mercury. They have power beyond the scope of this direct control though. The area's effect of their magnetism can be used in a couple of ways. They can spend an action to power up their magnetic field and draw in all metal within 60 feet of their location, causing all creatures who are wearing armor to have to make a DC 15 strength athletics check or be dragged or shoved 30 feet towards or away from the Metalmaster. More tactically concerning though is that while they are being pulled or dragged or pushed this way, the victim is also restrained, so they have a speed of 0 and can't benefit from any bonus to speed, plus their attacks and dexterity saving throws have disadvantage while attacks against them have advantage. Some common sense does apply. Even characters wearing just a breastplate or a chain shirt still have metal bits on their forearms, gloves and such. Characters who don't want to let go of their swords, daggers, quivers of arrows, crossbow bolts, pouches of ball bearings, crowbars, lanterns and such are also going to have a fun time dealing with this. Finally, the magnetic field can be used to create a swirling shitstorm if the Metalmaster has sufficient bits of metal around it. Obviously, this means most Metalmasters travel around with bits of sharp metal stuck to them all the time, and a little eddy of rusty metal bits that travel along with them like a pet dog. And those near hordes of dragon treasure have unlimited ammo. Remember I was talking about them being kept by dragons? Well, spending its action, the Metalmaster creates a 60-foot zone of flying metal shards. Any creature or object that enters or starts its turn inside that area must make a DC 15 dexterity saving throw or take 4d6 slashing damage, taking half damage if they succeed on the saving throw. If the Metalmaster is not a legendary creature, this action takes up their actions, so it is usually just a defensive action. But in a confined space that can still be lethal, as they can maintain this for as long as they like. Also, one Metalmaster can maintain the whirlwind of shards while companion Metalmasters shove other creatures into the area of effect, combining their magnetic fields with those of the other slugs. And legendary Metalmasters may be able to both create a whirlwind of shards and use other magnetic effects as their legendary actions. So this is a really bad time for your average adventuring party, and most civilized humanoids make heavy use of metal, so this is why they are fairly easy prey for the Metalmasters. The Sword Slugs have an armor class of 15. This may drop to 14 when they're using their metal shards that are normally stuck to their hide, or when kept in captivity without any metal bits to carry around. They are tough creatures with 9d10 plus 45, or between 54 and 135 with an average of 94 hit points. Most sources state that Metalmasters have extremely rapid healing capacity, not quite the regeneration power of a troll. They heal 1 hit point per turn as long as they have at least 1 hit point, and regenerate lost eye stalks in a day or two. They have a speed of 20 feet per round, which is fast for a giant slug. Their strength is 15, dexterity is 12, constitution 16, intelligence 8, wisdom is 12, and charisma is 5. They have a passive perception of 13, and they can actually understand, but not really speak, both undercommon and common. Their keen sense of smell gives them advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on that sense, and they have no natural climb speed. They can't handle much more than a steep staircase, and certainly can't climb a tree. though they could shred a tree down to a ragged stump if given enough time. While they normally only have one attack each round, when that action is being spent on using their magnetic power, they can still make a bite attack as a reactionary attack of opportunity, so keep that in mind. Metalmasters are thankfully pretty rare. They are a real pest for dwarves and orcs, who will hunt them down and exterminate them, so populations of the creatures don't thrive in the same territory where orcs and dwarves are concentrated. Humans, elves, and other races just deal with them as they find them. They have not been motivated enough to really go on a genocidal rampage against them yet. You can find Metalmasters anywhere where bands of really pissed off adventurers happen to wander on evenings when the Dungeon Master is feeling particularly devious. Have fun. Tell your players I say hi. Please hit the like button if you made it this far. Subscribe if you like what I do. Check out my Subscribestar or Patreon for links for all the full scripts for these videos. Buy some Teespring merchandise. Wear your geek with pride, and as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.